right, my friends, Jared Dukes at your service. Appreciate everybody joining me today. Just hit the go button, so we'll go ahead and make sure everything's working the way it should. Appreciate showing up today. Welcome. Say a quick hello. It looks like we're doing good on my account on X. Thank you for joining us today. Hello to Twitch, and of course, YouTube is starting to come in right now. All righty, got a lot to talk about today. As you can see on your screen, we're going to start off with something to do with Joe Biden's pardons. I've been talking about that for some time on this channel. Also, if you're just joining the conversation, please take a second, introduce yourself, let us know where you're calling from. And I should say not where you're calling from, but exactly, hey, where are you in the world? It always seems to be interesting when we have people and friends from all over the world. And of course, we have Rosemary here in the chat already. Rose, it's always a pleasure, young lady, having you in the chat. Thank you for being here. Alrighty, looks like we're working good. I don't see any issues. Everybody can hear me. If you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, please put them in the chat at any time. Any question, any comment, I just ask that you keep it PG, respectful. And I just typed in the link one more time. You can use that link if you'd like to simply call and just chat kind of just on the telephone, no problem. If you'd like to appear by video, you also can do that. Just be ready to go when you click that link, because I can bring you into the chat at any time. Today, we're going to be talking about the breaking news. I think it's been going on for about the last 24, 48 hours pertaining to, well, is Joe Biden going to be issuing additional pardons like he issued to his son, Hunter Biden? Interesting comments to be making on that. We also have some more sweet Fani Willis, the very just and loving DA from Fulton County, Georgia. Sweet Fani. She is having more problems, if you can believe that. And I think it's only going to get worse for her and Loverboy Nathan Wade from here on out. Additionally, I have the actual letter that we're going to talk about today that let's just say Congress from Jim Jordan's office sent Fani Willis with an ultimatum. Just, you're going to see things getting more and more mixed up for her. A little more rough, especially for her and Loverboy Nathan Wade. We're also going to talk briefly about what's going on in New York City with Alvin Bragg and their corruption down there. And this has to do with the Daniel Penny trial. I want to make sure we clearly have an understanding of what's going on in that part of the world. And we have some other videos and things that we are going to talk about. So let's go ahead and start up right out of the shooting match. All right. Any questions? Like I said, any issues here, just let me know. So moving on, we have been talking about this on this channel for some time pertaining to, it's one of the predictions I made. I'm not right all the time, but I know this is going to be, unfortunately, a consequence of Joe Biden's lawfare. And I mentioned this the other day. One of the things that deeply upsets me about everything Joe Biden did, I mean, because let's be honest about it, there's always a lot of politics when it comes to the White House and Congress. I mean, I'm used to that. It's been going on my entire life. What really aggravates me this time is this lawfare truly threatens our ability as a country to exist. Joe Biden has succeeded in taking our country and turning it into a de facto banana republic. We have countries like Ecuador, who's friendly and kind, let's just say in their own manner, their own way. The president there was basically warning us in a friendly stance and a friendly tone. Hey, knock it off, United States. We need you to be strong. We need you to lead as you always have in the world. When the United States is strong, the world is strong and is at peace. When the United States is going downhill, to say the least, the rest of the world will soon follow. It has been shown to us this past 4 years that this is absolutely the truth. And what is just unbelievable is what Joe Biden has done with this lawfare. And he has now set the precedent that the party in power goes after the party that left power, or the party that they want to make sure is not able to return and conquer them, so to speak, and change the way they have things moving in the country. And this is extremely unfortunate for so many reasons. listen, I love this country like I'm sure you do. It's just so sad, too bad that he has allowed this to happen. But unfortunately, I think the only way to handle this is to punish the people responsible for this lawfare. And again, I predicted it. I wish I was not right. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you the standard going forward unequivocally is going to be when a president leaves office, they're going to have to pardon themselves. And I realize that the Supreme Court has not ruled if a president can do that or not, but so what? You do it. The worst thing is Supreme Court says you cannot do that. But at a minimum, a president is going to have to pardon all of the associates that they've dealt with, everybody that has worked for the president and his office. It's just unfortunate, but that is going to be the standard from here on out. And we have P. Hackman. Thanks for joining us. How can Biden pardon someone that hasn't been charged with a crime that is a guilty conscience? Yes, I would say it could be considered a guilty conscience. Absolutely. But a president can do this. This is unequivocal. It is part of the powers that are in the Constitution. It's something that our founding fathers thought of ahead of time, and it's something that they allow. Now, I cannot say for sure that the founding fathers figured there would ever be an event that has happened right now. We've seen this nonsense between the Biden administration and what he has tried to do to President-elect Donald Trump. But the reality is a pardon can definitely, unequivocally be issued by the president to anyone at any time he's in office and for any reason, even without a crime. In other words, you don't have to be charged by a prosecutor for a particular offense in order for there to be a pardon. And I know this 100% factually because it's already happened in American history. Please remember back in the 1970s, you had then President Ford pardon Richard Nixon. He just knew it would not be in the United States' best interest. Frankly, my friends, it wouldn't be in the interest of the entire world if you had a situation where a former United States president was sitting in a cage. It's just a bad look. It would not benefit our country. It would not benefit the entire United States. And of course, remember, Richard Nixon got in trouble for that Watergate break-in. I'm not an expert on the subject, but the short version is he materially participated, planned, whatever, to have people break into the Watergate Hotel, to the DNC headquarters, to basically steal information, steal their plans. I will just say that he could have got into serious trouble once he left office. He could have been charged by a number of different prosecutors in different jurisdictions. And obviously, President Ford did not want to take a chance. So he unconditionally pardoned him. And that's the bottom line. So obviously, Richard Nixon was never brought up on charges. So Joe Biden, for example, could issue a pardon that says, I, Joe Biden, as President of the United States, hereby pardon. If it was me, I would write it out saying that I hereby pardon any and all individuals that were in my privity during my time in office as President of the United States. I pardon anyone who has worked with my administration in any capacity. And I mean, there's different ways to word it, but the one of the lines I've seen in other documents, like release documents, is you'll say something along the lines of that this pardon will endure to the benefit of anyone who claims that, hey, this pardon applies to me. I mean, you can get this really broad, and I'm sure he's got attorneys that will do a excellent job in writing it up. But if he does not pardon the individuals around him, there is going to be some serious consequences. And I'm going to give you a list here in just a second of what I think is the culpability for his administration, what I believe, or I should say who I believe could be in the crosshairs. Because as we've talked about here, I would like to see President-elect Donald Trump simply be the bigger guy and just allow all this to go away and set the country back on the path we should be, which is a country without lawfare. However, what I'm afraid of is that if he does not firmly and aggressively go after the people responsible, and I'll give you a list here in just a second of who I think is in the crosshairs. If he does not go after these evildoers, the people that cause this, then it's going to happen again. It's going to be repeated. Additionally, the Democrats, these woke Democrats, have not given up the ghost, my friends. Remember Letitia James, Exhibit A? As soon as Donald Trump won, she's like on TV with the governor of New York saying, hey, I'm coming after you. This ain't stopping me. I'm going to hold you accountable. I don't want to get too deep in the ditch here, but we should reform politics, or I should say more accurately, we should reform the way prosecutions happen in the United States. Remember, the United States is effectively the only major industrialized modern country that allows just any prosecutor, solicitor to say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mess up that person's life. I'm going to destroy that person. Remember Kamala Harris, that one video out there, she's talking to, oh, I can just take my pen and I can just wave it and mess up someone's life. That is not the way a prosecutor, solicitor, attorney general is supposed to act. They're supposed to have the sole interest of justice in their mind. And until now in our country's history, it has worked. For the most part, we have had prosecutors that understood how serious what we call prosecutorial discretion is. They have to take it very seriously, and they need to use it only when absolutely necessary. And again, the United States is the only country that allows any of these 2,300 plus or minus individuals in our country currently to have this type of awesome power to wreck someone's life. Countries like Israel and other countries, generally, they have a person that's appointed for life, maybe even elected. I think it might need to be a person that's appointed for life, similar to what you have with the U.S. Supreme Court. And the way it would work is before someone like Fani Willis could decide she's going to go after President Donald Trump, she would have to bring her case, her reasoning, to this particular tribunal, and they would simply rubber stamp it yes or no. You can go for it or you can't go for it. Something has to change. The status quo is not acceptable. I hope that answers your question there, Hackerman. Thank you for that information in your question. Carol, hello from Arkansas. What part of Arkansas? I got a lot of family in the great state of Arkansas. My grandparents used to live there in Newport, both sets of grandparents, Newport, Arkansas. And as a matter of fact, I have one of my daughters lives there in Batesville, Arkansas. So I'm not sure what part of Arkansas, but I'm always interested. And of course, my friend American Nana from West Virginia, Appalachia. Thank you for being here. My friend Sapphire Ridge. Mark, thank you for being here, my friend, all the way in Montana. I'm sure it's getting cold up in that neck of the woods. And Sapphire says, no, if he doesn't go after them, they will do it again. Yeah, unfortunately, Mark, you are exactly correct. And I only come to that conclusion in the last week or so. I was hoping that Donald Trump could simply say, no, this is wrong, and I'm going to go ahead and put things back right, so to speak. He has no choice. If he doesn't go after these people, this is going to continue, and I don't have any doubt that it's going to continue. I'm sure y'all feel the same way too. And just for clarity, I want to go ahead and tell you who I personally think has culpability if President Trump does not pardon them. Obviously, we have heard a lot for someone like Dr. Fauci, I think is how you say his name, that so-called doctor. At a minimum, he has definitely, in my estimation, committed some type of perjury in front of Congress. How many times have you seen him and Rand Paul beat it up together? And again, in my opinion, just outright lying to Congress about the origins of the outbreak from 2020. I want to choose my words carefully here, but you understand where I'm going with this. And also, you have people like Nancy Pelosi, Liz Cheney. How about all the members that were on that so-called blue ribbon, allegedly bipartisan tribunal for the J6 nonsense, right? I mean, there are so many people that, again, in my opinion, have committed some type of perjury or lies, or they withheld evidence, including Nancy Pelosi. Remember that video that just came out in the last several months showing a recorded situation in a car where Nancy Pelosi effectively admitted she turned down the 10,000 troops that were offered to be there on January 6, 2020 to make sure the Capitol was protected. And all these are potential problems. Of course, President Joe Biden has problems. Remember, the Supreme Court said a president cannot be prosecuted effectively for anything dealing with subjects pertaining to his work while he's president. But it does not include things like Burisma and what Hunter Biden allegedly did all the way back in 2014. By the way, back then he was not president. He was vice president, or he vice president with Barack Obama. He does not have the same protections as a president had. And obviously the whole Biden family, his brother, all these people, remember the big guy. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Obviously, I would say Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, all these people, Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, they all worked with the Biden-Harris administration, and they had this master plan to go after Donald Trump for the purpose of keeping him out of the White House. They have failed spectacularly in this situation. Thank God that they failed. But all these people, in my estimation, have potential criminal liability. You talk about RICO, we're talking about racketeering, internally corrupt organization, the acronym of RICO. How much more of a organized plan do you have than you have the number 3 person at the Biden DOJ quit his cushy, high-paid job, and he allegedly quit because he wanted to go work in New York City at the DA's office for Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, and his declared statement for doing so was that's what he wanted to do, a position of lower rank, a position of less prestige, a position of less power. Are you kidding me? No one believes that. I don't believe this. And then, of course, Fani Willis, Nathan Wade. Where do I begin with these two? Look at all of the potential fraud and the potential lies, the perjury they have committed, trying to say that their relationship did not start until, September of 2021, where they first started bringing these charges, and he was hired to prosecute this so-called RICO case against President Donald Trump, even though Nathan Wade had zero experience, ladies and gentlemen, zero experience prosecuting anything as a prosecutor, much less than prosecuting something under the RICO charge. One of my best videos that I've ever had, I think currently it has over 310,000 views, was me showing and dissecting Nathan Wade in court live. This man did not even know the difference between a grand jury and a special grand jury. You would assume that any attorney that is hired to go after the former president of the United States would be somebody that is highly credentialed, that knows RICO inside and out. This RICO law is extremely dangerous. It was passed, and we were all told, oh, hey, we're only going to go after mobsters, like the mobster families, John Gotti, this type of stuff. And of course, like anything else, human beings, we're going to take it and we're going to manipulate it and use it in such a way that it was not intended. And of course, we as people, like Fani Willis, did not disappoint. And they did just that. They started using it for purposes in which it was never intended. And we see exactly what we got as a result of that. Also, Jack Smith, I think he clearly has some potential liability there, because they will be able to prove and find out that he was coordinating with Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, and all these other individuals. I have no doubt in my mind they will be able to find that evidence to prove that. We will see how that works out. And then finally, how can I not talk about Adam Schiff? And we know what President Donald Trump calls Adam Schiff, and I think that is a very appropriate name for Mr. Adam Schiff. And by the way, to add insult to injury, do you know he is no longer a member of the House of Representatives? However, he was elected as the next senator from the state of California, which is extremely unfortunate. Well, we all know California is very liberal, to say the least, and he is going to be a senator in the Senate, the federal Senate, which is unfortunate, but that does not insulate him from having some type of potential liability under the Trump administration, the Trump DOJ under, I'm assuming Pam Bondi will get the job. She seems highly credentialed, and I only hear good things about her. And she is a very firm Donald Trump supporter. Make no doubt about that. That's exactly what's going to happen. And Adam Schiff, Oh, where do I start with him? He has lied so many times on so many things. Remember, he was the one pushing that Russian dossier nonsense. He was the one that was telling the American people, hey, trust me, Donald Trump did terrible things. He committed all kinds of fraud. And I believe he was even talking about treason. He would say something like, oh, I can't disclose it because it's confidential, but I've seen the proof. I remember him on the talk shows saying what I just told you. And ladies and gentlemen, it was a complete and utter fabrication, a complete lie. I have no doubt that there is some serious criminal culpability he has. So we're going to look at a clip here in a minute of Adam Schiff saying that, hey, I think the pardons are a bad idea. He's a liar. He's an absolute liar. Either he asked for a pardon and was not granted one, or he's just trying to, again, lie. This is what this man does. He lies, he lies, he lies about everything. They are all just anything short of begging for a pardon. Guarantee it. We'll see how it all plays out. But again, my prediction is that is the unfortunately in America, unless and until we arrive at a time and a day to where they fix this mess, where this cannot happen again. And I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but rest assured that one way or the other, they're going to have to find a way to work this out and put a stop to it. The only thing that comes to my mind is what I said earlier. They're going to yet have to have a independent mediator of some sort that can put a stop to these type of political, not prosecutions, persecutions. Even the Constitution right now, as written, already does not allow. It's unconstitutional to have a political prosecution. And unfortunately, we now know that that is not going to stop these types of prosecutions from happening. So we'll just have to see exactly how this all works out. So let's go and take a look at this article, and then we've got some few video clips I want to take a look at. This was today in Politico. Biden White House is discussing preemptive pardons for those in Trump's crosshairs. Says the nomination of Kash Patel, who has vowed to pressure Trump's critics as FBI director, has heightened concerns within the president's inner circle. President Joe Biden's senior aides are conducting a vigorous internal debate over whether to issue preemptive pardons to a range of current and former public officials who could be targeted with the president-elect Donald Trump's return to the White House, according to senior Democrats familiar with the discussions. Biden's aides are deeply concerned about a range. Then they should be. They should be. They know they have committed crimes, and they're very worried about it. And I would say President Biden, just like with his pardon of Hunter Biden, is concerned that it's all going to turn the cannon fire on him if these people are not pardoned ahead of time. But anyway, says he's deeply concerned about a range of current and former officials who could find themselves facing inquiries and even indictments, a sense of alarm which has already accelerated since Trump's last weekend announced the appointment of Kash Patel. Let's hope he makes it in to lead the FBI. Patel has publicly vowed to pursue Trump's critics. The White House officials, however, are careful weighing the extraordinary step of handing out blanket pardons to those who've committed no crimes. Yeah, right. Both because it could suggest impropriety, only fueling Trump's criticisms, and because those offered preemptive pardons may reject them. Remember that too, when you are offered a pardon, it's not automatic. You do have to accept the pardon. So I'm not going to read through every word of this. I just wanted to touch on the main highlights here. And I guess you could argue that they're lowlights. It does end that the conversations are taking place and it's a big conversation through the entire White House. The reports and stuff I've been hearing is that they're very, very reluctant to do this. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to have to do this. We'll just have to see exactly how this turns out. I would say that since he issued that pardon to Hunter Biden, it's really made a lot of people mad, including Democrats, and they're worried that this might even make more people mad. Again, I understand the outrage with the pardon to Hunter Biden, but in my opinion, look, it's his son. Anybody that did not think he was not going to pardon his son and keep him from being put in a cage is not really being honest with themselves. And this is just my opinion. I think where President Biden went wrong is two things. Number one, he was gaslighting us all by telling us, oh, there's not going to be a pardon. There's not going to be no pardon. It's not going to happen. Forget it. So that's the first thing is gaslighting and lying to us. And then the second thing is there's a story that came out today where you had people coming forward. I'll stop short of calling them whistleblowers, but they're saying unequivocally that the Joe Biden White House, specifically Joe Biden, they have been talking about this pardon for Hunter Biden for months. So when you're talking about it for that long of a time frame, it's not something that it's a flat no, it's never going to happen. The reality is it's something that they have been thinking about for quite some time. All right. So let's go ahead and let's get sweet Fani moving on here. Okay. Just checking the comments real quick. All right. Looks good. All right. And then we're going to switch over to a couple of videos, but I wanted to make sure that you know the good news for sweet Fani. If I was Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, I, for one, would not be sleeping well at night. No way, no how, no sir. They have to know that let's just say the end is near. They went after this man, Donald Trump, and it has blew up in their face. I would not want to trade places with them under any circumstances, especially considering all the crimes, in my opinion, again, that they have clearly committed. All right. All right. So this is from Law and Crime. This is another article from today. Matter of fact, 4/17 this evening. So it says, expects your voluntary compliance. This is, of course, Representative Jim Jordan gives Fani Willis a tight deadline to turn over Jack Smith documents. He's trying to show what we've been talking about, this correlation between them all right here. So it goes on. The congressional investigators are giving Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis a deadline to comply with the document production request related to her conversations with various federal authorities about investigations into President-elect Donald Trump. I just love saying that, President-elect Donald Trump. Feels so good, don't it? Just love it. The embattled Democratic Party prosecutor has until December 9th, so very short window here, to turn over any such file, according to a letter, and we're going to take a look at that letter in just 1 second, sent by House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan, a Iowa Republican, on Wednesday. And we're all familiar with Jim Jordan. If you're not, there's his picture right there. You'll see him in the news all the time. He's very aggressive and passionate about whatever he is focused in on. It goes on to say, the Committee on the Judiciary continues to conduct an oversight of politically motivated prosecutions by state and local officials. The letter reads, to date, you have failed to produce all information responsive to these requests. And see, boom, there it is. That's what I'm talking about. That is what is going to do in a lot of these people, is the politically motivated prosecutions, the collaboration, basically the RICO. It's these people getting together and conspiring to commit crimes, I would call it deprivation of rights. It's kind of like a civil rights crime. And make no mistake about it, civil rights types of crimes, these deprivations of rights, these are the type of crimes that can get you a long time in jail, if not life in jail. It's a very, very serious criminal charge. And I would not want to be in front of something like that. I'm sure you would not too. So, but anyway, by the way, if you don't mind, since y'all are still with me, hit the thumbs up button. Be sure to subscribe. It helps the algorithm. I would definitely appreciate it. You can do that for free for me. I should introduce myself, by the way. If you don't know already, I'm J.R. Dukes. You are here on my channel. I'm glad to have you with me. We are what we call the home of the free-minded patriots. We're all about ending indoctrination and talking about current events, the people that have authority over us, and I'm here to help you think for yourself with that free mind so you can live your best life possible. Moving on. It says, arguments began in August 2023 when the committee asked Willis for files related to her office receipt and use of federal grant funds issued by the Department of Justice. And friends, that's another thing that they're going to go after her hard for. That is clearly a federal crime, and she and Nathan Wade, anybody that worked with her on this, can get some serious prison time for this. This is essentially stealing federal funds. Remember, she paid her lover, paramour Nathan Wade, $750,000 to $1 million, and then they both go off together on very luxurious vacations, cruises, trips. We don't know the full extent of what has happened between the two of them, but we do know clearly that there is perjury. I would say this is prima facie corruption. How can you call this anything but corruption? And Fulton County has been corrupt for a very long time. On this channel, we have talked about this extensively. Even back with Martin Luther King Jr., they tried to throw him in jail in Fulton County and lose the room. If it was not for JFK, you would never have heard of Martin Luther King Jr. That's how corrupt Fulton County is. They recently issued a letter to their entire family that was published in the Constitution Journal. I believe it was in the year 2020. You can Google it if you're interested. But this is a corrupt place. It's corrupt then, it's corrupt now. They have people waiting in that jail there in Fulton County that are dying in custody. They have some people haven't had a hearing, and I believe it's been like 1-2 years. Someone's been there 3 years with almost no due process. And that's not a joke. That's just sick. I can't believe that's even allowed. But mark my words, when you start messing with federal grant money, which is what they're alleged to have been doing, and I think that's very accurate, you know what? Fani Willis, Nathan Wade would have been much better off sticking to the small-scale fraud. Whatever they got going on in Fulton County, they would have been much better off pocketing money here and there and keep it on a small scale. When you stick your neck out and the entire world is watching you, don't be surprised when the guillotine comes down and you have to pay for going after people and messing up their lives, messing up their careers, messing up their families. And most importantly, in my mind, you are starting the destruction of our country, because corruption in large part is what brought down the Roman Empire. And make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, it can bring down the United States of America. We have been blessed by God. That is very clear. This is a very special place, a special country. And I believe we still have God's anointing, but at the same time, we can lose that. And I think a quick way to lose it is to continue to spin down this corruption, this evil political, power-hungry, money-greedy driven nonsense. Yeah, and I like money. I like making money. There's nothing wrong with that. But what's wrong is the corruption and going after your enemies to subvert them and put them in jail. Going after Donald Trump's kids, having him come in for a mugshot. We're going to see a mugshot with old Fani Willis, Nathan Wade. We'll see. I'm on tape right now. That's my prediction. I'm not always right, like I've told you. I think it's coming in the pipeline, just a matter of time. If there are not blanket pardons issued and we live long enough, we're going to see how good their photos look. If it looks like anything Donald Trump took when he was in Fulton County, I would think that is probably not going to happen. But again, time will tell. Let's see. Carol, thanks for being here today. Appreciate it. Carol says, I love how Democrats break the law and then accuse President Trump for everything that Biden is doing himself. Amen. Amen. That's exactly what it is. And they always spin it. I have a couple videos coming up. I think one is of Joyless Reed, and another one is one of the other reporters on there is who is that one girl? She looks like Mark Cuban. At least everybody jokes with her looking like him. But at any rate, it's very interesting, like Carol's saying, that when the Democrats are in power, they have one way of looking at things. And then when the shoe's on the other foot, they have a different take on everything else. And as Carol said, they break the law and then they blame Republicans, Donald Trump, MAGA. As our President Joe Biden would say, they blame the garbage, right? Oh, well, we'll see how that works out for him. Obviously, it did not work out very well this past election. In January, of course, the district attorney's fortunes began a long slide. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. After several co-defendants in the racketeering RICO and election subversion case against Trump sidelined the prosecution. This disruption, still ongoing, will make possible. It was made possible by Willis's romantic relationship. And she says, since X, that's not true. then lead prosecutor Nathan Wade. They are still together. We looked at that video where Fani Willis's daughter had some issue in a county just south of Fulton County, and guess who shows up while her pregnant daughter is pulled over by the local police? It's Fani Willis and her sidekick, Nathan Wade. Interesting, no? And they have said under oath that their relationship ended, I believe, in 2023, somewhere around in there. It's going to be really hard to explain to a jury of their peers that they did not commit perjury as to when their relationship began, when their relationship ended. I know what you're thinking. Oh, we got back together after it did end in 2023. It just, the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, there's so many discrepancies, so many lies. You would have to believe a lot of crazy stuff if you believe what Fani Willis, Nathan Wade have said on the stand under oath. Remember, Fani Willis is the same DA that says because she's black, and you know how much I hate these identity politics and this race baiting nonsense. It just irks me to no end. But because she's black, she keeps all her money at home in cash. They don't trust banks. Again, I don't want to go down that road too long. It's very aggravating, but it's something I don't think she's going to get away with. And we'll see how this all works out. All right. It says, in the end, Jordan's efforts bore little fruit, even as the RICO case flagged due to a combination of Wilson's personal choices for her public defense and those choices in a speech at a Black History. So we're not going to go through all the details, but I do want to take a quick peek at the letter Jim Jordan wrote her. We pretty well are familiar with the actual events in this case. And listen, Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, they got no one to blame but themselves for this mess that they're in, for this fraud. And it's clearly time for them to pay up. I guess is probably the best way to say. All right, you see this is dated December 4th, so we're only talking a day or two ago. And Congress of the United States, this is the Committee on the Judiciary to the Honorable Fani T. Willis. That's kind of a oxymoron, but dear Miss Willis, the Committee on the Judiciary continues to conduct oversight of politically motivated prosecutions by state and local officials on August 24th, 2023. We requested from you all documents, communications between or among the Fulton County District Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice. And this is, see, we got a triangle going on here, Office of Special Counsel Jack Smith, relating to the investigation of President Donald Trump or any of their 18 indicted individuals, all the other people that were indicted along with them. Further, on December 5th, 2023, after we became aware of the partisan January 6th Select Committee, that's the committee we were just talking about, provided your office access to its records. We request from you 2 categories of documents relating to the investigatory coordination between your office and the January 6th Select Committee. To date, you have failed to produce all information responsive to this request. Not only is she in trouble with Jim Jordan on this committee, remember, she just got scolded severely by the judge in Judicial Watch. Tim Felton wanted, by law, they have to produce it, but he wanted documents related to this case, and she's basically said nothing, just ignored it, or did not respond to it, and this judge scolded her harshly. She had 5 days from whatever that date was a few days back to turn over records to him, to Judicial Watch. We'll see how that turns out as time goes on. And I mean, it's just one thing after another. She is she's not willing to open her eyes and understand this is over. This case against Donald Trump is over. You have defendants that pled guilty in that case coming forward now, asking the judge to undo their guilty plea and to basically rewind and reset the clock. This case is dead over. Even the Georgia Court of Appeals did not go forward with the December 5th date in which they were scheduled to give oral argument. And basically it's interlocutory appeal, just an appeal from Judge Scott McAfee's order saying that, hey, Willis, you can stay on the case, but Nathan Wade has to go, or both of you can go and you have to turn it over to another prosecutor. The reality is there's not another prosecutor that would touch this case. This case is, it's not dynamite. It's kryptonite. I mean, this case will kill you. I would not want to touch this case with anything. And Fani Willis, again, she just is not going to throw in the towel. This case is a dead case that is pretending to be alive. The problem for her is she's only digging this hole deeper. As a matter of fact, here is Judicial Watch on August 22nd, 2023. Judicial Watch Incorporated submitted a request to your office under the Georgia Open Records Act seeking all documents and communications sent to, received from, or related to Special Counsel Jack Smith, and for all documents and communications sent to or received from the United States House January 6th Committee. That January 6th Committee has got, in my opinion, criminal, it's just got criminal auras all over it. And we're talking, of course, Liz Cheney, some of the other people that were on that Pacific so-called select committee. Remember, they gave it the, they labeled it as bipartisan, but it was not bipartisan. The bipartisan, I think there was 2 Republicans, and I use that word in quotes, Liz Cheney and one other rhino. The name escapes me right now, but y'all know what I'm talking about. If you know those names, put it in the chat so I know. But anyway, it says, in response to Judicial Watch requests, an individual from your office apparently told Judicial Watch that you did not have responsive records. Consequently, Judicial Watch initiated a lawsuit against you, alleging that your response violated Open Records Act. In fact, and he's going on here, I'm paraphrasing, it does have responsive records that you should have produced. After you failed to timely or sufficiently respond to a Judicial Watch lawsuit, the Superior Court of Fulton County ordered you to, quote, conduct a diligent search of your records for responsive materials within 5 business days of the order, end quote, and to provide Judicial Watch with copies of all responsive records that are not legally exempt or exempted from disclosure, which is going to be very few records, if any. And then finally, accordingly, the committee hereby reiterates and requests contained in our August 24th, 2023, December 5th, 2023 letters, including those related to Special Counsel Jack Smith, the January 6th committee, and we expect your voluntary compliance with these requests. Those letters are enclosed and incorporated here for your reference. If you are unable to locate responsive records, choose to withhold certain records from disclosure, or choose to redact information contained in those responsive materials, please provide to the committee in writing the reasons for doing so. We ask that you comply with our request as soon as possible, but no later than 5:00 p.m. Monday, December 9th. Not a good thing to be on the receiving end of. You have a very powerful committee, this oversight committee pertaining to the judiciary. You got someone very motivated and Representative Jim Jordan. You have a president incoming that's Republican, and yeah, he has an axe to grind, and I have no problem with it. You have the Senate going to be controlled by the Republicans, and of course the House. Although it is a narrow majority, it is nonetheless a majority, and it will stay in Republican hands. How about that, huh? I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that. Incidentally, just a quick little note. This was in New York, the Sun. It says Jack Smith, with Trump out of his grasp, because remember, he asked the judge, and the judge granted his request to dismiss that bogus political case involving the documents and the election in front of Judge Chunkin. Vows unrelenting prosecution of the president-elect's employees. Again, this is the reason why you have someone like Joe Biden looking to pardon everyone in his privity. This is exactly what Donald Trump and the DOJ should and is going to do in reverse. And it's talking about these 2 individuals. I'm going to do more research on them because I want to talk about this more. It's standard 101 prosecution techniques. You squeeze, indict, hammer, pressure the flunkies, the people lower down the ladder, so to speak, and you basically tell them, listen, I'm going to let you out of this noose. You're not going to have to swing on it, but you're going to have to give me some information on your boss, aka Donald Trump, or when the shoe's on the other foot, the big guy. That's exactly how all this plays out. So he's vowed to continue hammering the people around him. Now, having said this, I would anticipate that Donald Trump is going to do what they're trying to get Joe Biden to do right now, and that is to basically pardon all of the people around him in his privity. At least that's what they're trying to get him to do. I don't think Joe Biden is in charge of anything. I'm sure y'all agree with that. I don't think he's running anything, and I think that he will do whatever his handlers encourage him or tell him to do. Y'all agree with me on that? I'm curious. I don't see how he would not carry out what they advise him to do. I mean, clearly we saw that video of him sleeping over in Africa. He signs the Hunter Biden pardon. He's out of here. He's over in Africa trying to take a snooze, right? Okay. All right, let's get to the J.R. Dukes scroll feed right here. Let's take a peek at this. I got a few videos I want to talk about. Some of these are clearly related to what we've been talking about today. I have a fun one to start off with here. I don't know if y'all have seen this or not, but I thought it was pretty cool. We all know Donald Trump's youngest son, Barron Trump. What a great name, Barron Trump. I think that's fantastic. The thing is let's listen to this, and then you guys tell me, if you want to put in the chat for me. Tell me what's the first thing that pops into your mind when you hear Barron Trump's voice and you watch his mannerisms and engaging with these people. I'm not going to tell you what my opinion is right now. I'm curious as to what you guys think. So let me get this larger. Okay. This is Barron Trump. There's not a lot of video out there on Barron Trump, especially as an adult. So it's kind of interesting to hear him talk and his mannerisms. I'm curious what y'all think about it. So here we go.
Yes, hello, how are you? I'm in the business. Very nice to see you. Very nice. I gave him a shout out last night. The place went crazy.
I know it's a little hard to hear. Some of the videos have a better volume, some don't. But look at his mannerisms. And his dad, Donald Trump, here is going to kind of joke that you think we can make a fighter out of this guy. It's just kind of cute to see the whole interaction.
Hello, how are you? Very nice. Good to see you.
You too, buddy.
Oh, you
No.
It's not.
Can we make him into a fighter?
Yes, hello, how are you?
I'm in the business.
Very nice to see you. Very nice.
I gave him a shot.
Did you guys hear that? He goes, "Hey, how you doing?" He looks at him. He shakes his hand. He goes, "It's very nice. It's very nice to see you. Very nice." All right. I'll talk about that in 1 second.
The place went crazy.
Hello, how are you? Very nice. Good to see you.
You too, buddy.
Oh, you
No.
Can we make him into a fighter?
Yeah, that's where he goes, "Hey, can you make a fire out of him?" That guy there, I guess that's Dana White. He's one of the FEC fighters or whatever that deal is. I know that him and Trump are good friends.
Yes, hello, how are
I'm in
you?
the business.
All right, pretty cute. Anybody got an opinion on it? Wants to care to put it in the chat? All right, I'll go ahead and tell you what my opinion is. My deliberate opinion of this is real simple. I think, first of all, does he not look like his dad? And his mannerisms look just like his father. He acts like his father, and most importantly, and I know the voice is a little bit low, he talks like his dad. He goes, it's nice to see you. He goes, it's very nice to see you, and then repeats, very nice. That's exactly what Donald Trump does. It's very nice to see you. Very nice. Because you know how Donald Trump repeats, right?
How are
I'm in
you?
the business.
Very nice to see you. Very nice.
I gave him a shout out last night. The place went crazy.
Yeah, Mark, thank you for that. Yeah, UFC. I just think it's pretty cool how kids, especially his son particularly, how they look like their parents so readily. It's pretty awesome as far as I'm concerned. So, all right, this is loosely related to what we've been talking about on the pardons and stuff, because you have this John Fetterman, and we remember him. He's a newer senator. He ran against Oz. He defeated Oz in the race for senator from Pennsylvania. The cool thing about John Fetterman, because he's come so far. Remember when he first started out, he gave that initial, a debate they were in, and the first thing out of his mouth, I'm assuming because of his recent stroke at the time, was something to the effect of, "Oh, good night, everyone. Good night. Thanks for being here." I mean, that was like the first thing out of his mouth. Clearly, he was suffering issues with his stroke. So yeah, I agree with you, Sapphire. He looks just like his dad. I thought so too. Good looking kid as far as I'm concerned. All right, but on John Fetterman, thank goodness he has definitely made a recovery. It's clear, but even though I don't agree with Fetterman's politics, I will say at times, he is the voice of reason. He calls it out, plain and simple, common sense. And this is the first time. The reason I want to take a look at this short clip here, to my knowledge, this is the first time I've heard any Democrat state the obvious, and that is that the prosecution in New York of Donald Trump is a political prosecution. And it's probably true, and it probably could be argued that the situation with Hunter Biden, he definitely broke laws. He's probably a bunch of words I don't really want to say right now, involving younger people, this type of stuff. I mean, none of that is okay. But the fact that it resulted in a federal trial for checking the wrong box on a firearm application, it's just so rarely prosecuted. I mean, clearly, I think we would agree that if his name was not Hunter Biden, there's a very low chance it would have ever went forward. And this is what he's saying. So let's take a quick listen on this here.
All, and
we can talk about it.
It is his son, after all, and people do have sympathy for that. But a lot of people are angry with him about it. What do you say?
Oh, well, I think it's undeniable that the case against Hunter Biden was really politically motivated. But I also think it's true that the trial in New York for Trump, that was political as well too. Now is that, and in both cases, I think a pardon is appropriate, and I really think collectively, America's confidence in these kinds of institutions have been damaged by these kinds of cases. And we cannot allow these kinds of institutions to be weaponized against our political opponents. And it's very clear both trials were politically motivated and weaponized that on the other side.
They'll say that about the J6 people too, though, right?
Yeah, she's going to have a stroke with these comments right here. Joyless Joy Behar.
That's what they're going to say on the other side. That is weaponized also.
I'm not referring to that. I'm talking about the New York trial. And now the Democrats on our side there were some that were gleeful, calling it like, now he's a convict.
So what do you all think about that? I think that's interesting in the sense that I just said. I have not, to my knowledge, heard a Democrat come out and say the obvious. It's a political, it's political nonsense. So it is what it is. I'm glad to see someone say something about it. So, all right, I want to switch gears just a little bit. And this is a little bit of a different subject, but we have to talk about it. All right, so here we go. This particular video right here, this woman is a complete racist. She is in, I believe it's the Boston City Council. Have a couple videos to watch on this in just a second. She has been arrested today by the FBI for facing wire fraud and theft. We're going to look at the accusations, but this woman is so racist, so rude, so inappropriate, and she thinks she has all the power. She's on a power trip, and it's not a lot of money. It's several $1,000s that she is alleged through a family member to be getting a kickback by being paid taxpayer funds. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to follow this case. I think y'all will find it interesting, and we'll talk about it because I have a couple more videos to talk about too. So, and by the way, her name is something like Tanya. I'll give you her full name here in just a second. But this is not someone I would enjoy having to spend a lot of time with if I was in the council or whatever. So let's take a peek.
People are calling me and telling me, don't say anything, stay in your lane, be quiet, sit down, you will lose your seat, they won't vote for you, fight, don't fight. What the fuck do I have to do in this fucking council in order to get respect as a Black woman? And I'm gonna tell you, I am not afraid of losing the votes. I'm not afraid of the seat. I'm not afraid of anybody here.
Well, I'll tell you what, first of all, I apologize for the profanity in that clip. I forgot to bleep those out. how would you like to have this lady as your representative? And you know how I feel about this race nonsense. If I could wave a magic wand and have my wish, one of the wishes I would have in a political sense for our country is to stop this race nonsense. It just drives me nuts. It's ridiculous. And you see, unfortunately, so many of these politicians talk like she talks. As a black woman, I'm not this, I'm not that. We need to stop this identity politics. We need to really focus on who is the best person to be a judge, a best person to be a city council man or woman. We need to stop talking about this person's that color, that person's this color, and they've been offended. Unfortunately, when people continue with this type of dialogue, all they're doing is teaching other people, for example, black people, to be victims. It's just nonsense. And let's be honest about it. If you look like me and someone brings up race, the first reaction we have is to shut up, get out of the conversation, look the other way. I'm not like that. I used to be like that. I'm not like that now. I'll tell exactly what's on my mind in relation to anything I want to talk about. But people like her know this. They know most of us are very uncomfortable about talking about these racial issues, and it undermines our country. It allows people to rise to the top, so to speak, that are not the best people for the job as far as ability, as far as having the professional ability to do whatever needs to be done. It's just like Joe Biden nominating that Jackson Brown to the U.S. Supreme Court because he wanted a black woman on there. What does that have to do with anything? He should have nominated the best person for the job. And I get it. Many presidents have been guilty of this. And there could have been a time, I don't know what that time would have been, but sometime a long time ago, where trying to integrate everybody into society and change society from the way it was. I get that. That makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe something like this would have been more appropriate in that time frame. But at some point, we have to stop this, ladies and gentlemen. We stop the affirmative action nonsense, and then they just simply changed it into this DEI because the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action. So they relabeled it, repackaged it. And now we've been living with this DEI. Well, this DEI needs to DIE. And unless we start talking about it and insisting on it, it's not going to change. I have some information on this woman to show you. I think you'll find this interesting here. Now, this was like a day before, I should say the day before she actually got arrested. And it was at this point just considered a federal probe. So let's take a quick peek at this and then let's talk about it because it's sad. It's sad what she's accused of doing. But let me ask you, is anybody here surprised? And Sapphire, you're right. Extremely disgraceful. Let me pull this up and I'll look at the comments real quick. Extremely disgraceful. All right, let's see. Sapphire. New York law says he's not a convicted felon until say that's exactly right. When you hear, I'm assuming you're talking about Donald Trump. When you're talking about someone being a convicted felon under New York law, you're not a convicted felon unless and until sentence has been passed. Donald Trump has not been sentenced at this point. Robert, thanks for being here today. The dishonorable Big Fani Willis. I think that's a perfect way to look at it. How disgraceful, right on, Sapphire. All right, let's take a quick peek at this, and then we can talk about it.
I cannot comment on the case
There
itself.
she is.
I cannot comment on it at all. I cannot comment on it at all. I cannot comment on it at all.
We are hearing from Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson in the wake of reports that she is the subject of a federal investigation. NBC 10 political reporter Matt Pritchard is at City Hall. Matt, what did the councilor have to say? We just heard no comment.
Yeah. I was going to say, JC, you heard a lot of what Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson had to say earlier today to the press. But of course, while she said no comment, she also committed to keep working for her constituents in District 7 as all this plays her out in the background. A return to City Hall.
Now, remember, this was yesterday as far as when this specific report aired was yesterday out of Boston. It's NBC 10 Boston. Today is a different story, and we'll take a look at that. But I wanted you to get just a little bit of a context to this here.
Following reports of a federal investigation, District 7 Councilor Tanya Fernandez-Anderson is allegedly the subject of that probe, speaking out for the first time ahead of Wednesday's city council meeting.
You know what this is. You know I'm not able to comment. You know why.
Councilor, there were conflicting reports about whether maybe federal agents had actually come to your office. Can you sort of clear that up? Can you confirm that that happened?
You're asking, even though I said I cannot.
Well, I just want to get it right. I want the reporting to be correct.
I cannot comment and don't
Can you
know
say why you can't comment? Have you been asked?
Details are scarce, including what specifically investigators may be looking into.
The government has the right to investigate information that it has that a crime may or may not have been committed. And that's really the step we're in right now.
Boston city officials staying tight-lipped as well.
How many times have we talked about Mayor Wu, Michelle Wu? That's who you see right there. She, just for quick reference, remember last year, she was the one that had a Christmas party, but if you look like me, you couldn't go to the party. No white people invited. It was only for people that were black. I mean, I don't know a nice way to say it. If you're interested, just look back to my videos. I covered this story extensively. She had a lot of feedback, and a lot of people were not happy with her black Christmas party. Again, just outrageous.
Wow.
I'm not going to speculate.
I can speculate. I mean, you were on city council at one point in your life, probably dealt with controversy during that time. Any advice to the council on how they move forward?
I think we have to let the facts unfold.
Now, many on the council unwilling to weigh in on what.
Yeah, so basically that means no comment. I don't want to talk about this anymore. So let's move on till today. And this is just a little bit of a different spin. And I did find a older article, by the way. City councilor fined after putting son, sister on the city payroll. And this is from like a year ago. So you know there was something going to be cooking sooner or later. And so this is from 10 hours ago. This is the FBI giving us some information on her arrest today. I'm sure she's not having a good night at all tonight. So let me pull this up real quick and let's take a peek, and then we can chat about it here. I want to start it right about here. Here we go.
To obtain several $1,000s in taxpayer money in exchange for a bribe she paid to a staffer she gave her a very large bonus.
You're not a child.
That's crazy, ain't it?
So
sorry about the commercial. I must not have switched over to my other account here. I always carry another account on YouTube Red, so I don't have to listen to that nonsense. But I want to hear this just for a second here.
For a bribe she paid to a staffer she gave her a very large bonus. The indictment charges Ms. Fernandez-Anderson with 5 counts of wire fraud in violation of Title 18, United States Code 30.
When the federal government wants you, when they want to take you out, that's what they hammer you with. It's the easiest charges to prove, and each one of these counts carries at least 25 years in prison. So they go after you for wire fraud. They go after you for mail fraud. It's the easiest to prove, and it's the most common charges that you generally see the federal government going after somebody
1343, with. And 1 count of theft concerning programs receiving federal funds in violation of Title 18, United States Code 666. According to the indictment that was returned by a federal grand jury earlier this week, Ms. Fernandez-Anderson was facing financial difficulty in 2023. Part of that financial difficulty.
Yeah, I won't bore you with all of the details on here, but the short version is basically she had family working for her, and she was coming up with different schemes to basically find a way to put that money in her pocket. And, you know, I don't mean this as a joke, but if I'm going to be a criminal and I'm going to commit some type of crime, especially a crime like this, it ain't going to be for a few $1,000s. I mean, am I the only one that thinks like that? To me, that's just stupid. I think it has to do with $3,000 or $4,000. Nuts. Sapphire says wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy to commit either. Exactly. And conspiracy, by the way, just by itself, which basically means, hey, you get together with at least one other person and you decide that you're going to commit a crime. That alone is conspiracy, criminal conspiracy, and it can cost you many, many years in the clink. Not a good scenario, to say the least. Okay, I want to switch gears here because I looked up some information on this. You guys are familiar with that case that everybody's talking about let me pull the video up here so we can take a look at it together. This has to do with that, and I got some specific points that I think are very relevant on this here. This has to do with UnitedHealthcare. This guy's the CEO, Barron Trump. He was the one that we've seen on video repeatedly being shot in the back. Well, I tracked down exactly what type of firearm this is, and I just think it's interesting the way this was planned out. And specifically, I want to make just a couple quick points on the ammunition that was found at the scene. Supposedly, it had words like delay, defend, deny, or depose, some words like that. And then there's like a book from 2010 that has a title similar to those words that all start with a D that I just explained. Well, we talk about it on this program, and I have every intention to continue talking about it. This is why you have to understand the law, and specifically this law in a civil context. This is how you spread what I call pain around. And sometimes pain comes in the form of money. When someone comes after you and they want to sue you, the way that they will do it and cause the most amount of pain to you is what we just said: delay. One of my favorite expressions is when you are in trouble in a civil context or a criminal context, one of the things that is your best friend is delay. I don't want an attorney at law. I want an attorney at stall. You get that? And stalling is the delay, because fortunately or unfortunately, but justice delayed is justice denied. And if you're setting, and there are exceptions to this, but if you're setting, for example, in a criminal situation, generally speaking, the longer you can put it off, you may come out better. Now, there are exceptions to that. Sometimes you do want a quick trial because it throws the prosecution off guard, and they may have to let the case go, or they put up a case that frankly doesn't hold together. But this is real life. This is exactly how real litigation happens and what takes place. And listen, I'm not making no judgment about this guy, this Barron Trump guy. What research I have done clearly shows this guy was a very smart man. He was valedictorian of his high school class. When he went to college, he was valedictorian of his college class. Everybody that I have seen interviewed pertaining to him talks about how smart this guy is. This guy was just a very smart human being. And he was also very charismatic. People generally liked him that knew him. But clearly, either this guy that shot him and killed him, this assassin, either this guy, for example, had a family member or somebody that lost their life or become disabled, I'm guessing. Something bad happened somewhere involving this particular insurance company. And we've probably all lived through this, especially before the Obamacare stuff came out. And that is that these insurance companies have a lot of power, probably maybe too much power. This particular company, if my math is correct, has like a 36% decline rate when it comes to health claims. In other words, if you need some type of surgery or procedure done, the industry normal is like 16% are decline. This particular company was double that at 36%, more than double that at 36%. So you can see why they have a lot of detractors, a lot of people that frankly do not like UnitedHealthcare. And this also explains a lot of the comments online. I think I saw one that said something to the effect of, I would express my condolences. However, my condolences are out of network. Obviously, this is somebody that is making a joke that is funny, but it's not funny. I mean, you had a human being die and was shot and killed, but yet a lot of us understand why someone might do something like that. So the point here, this is kind of an interesting way to dissect this, but even in Donald Trump's situation, when you delay a case, you generally come out better. Remember, they did not start, and when I say they, I'm talking about Jack Smith, Fani Willis, Nathan, Alvin Bragg. They did not start going after Donald Trump until he declared, or it was very clear that he was going to declare himself as a candidate for the Republican nomination for president of the United States. Then they started hammering him. Now, what did Donald Trump do, among other things? One of the main things he did, we can find from what this guy wrote on the bullets, and that is delay. Delay. How do you delay? Well, again, look what Donald Trump did. And I'm glad he did it, obviously. Their goal was to get into a trial as fast as they could to get a conviction and somehow derail his ability to run for president or embarrass him in such a way where he couldn't run for president, or like with Letitia James and Judge Engeron. And by the way, these people may have criminal liability as far as I'm concerned. I think that'd be pretty easy to show. So especially if they can be shown they were all working together on some level, some way. But the point is that how would Donald Trump delay? Well, one of the many things that you can do is with the interlocutory appeals we're talking about. In other words, you have something going on. Let's go back to Fani Willis. Fortunately, he can't take credit for this, but it was Ashley Merchant that did the digging on this and then discovered their relationship between Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. That gave Steve Sado and these other attorneys the perfect opportunity to bring forward to the court, Scott McAfee, the judge there, and say, hey, you need to kick her off this case. Well, the judge didn't rule the exact way Donald Trump, Ashley Merchant wanted him to rule, but you know what? It didn't matter because the goal is to delay. So they were able to immediately file the interlocutory appeal. And that's the one we were just talking about where they took it off of the calendar. So my point is delay. It's normal for a RICO case, depending on the type case it is. Sometimes it takes 6 years before you get to trial. So Donald Trump did the right thing. His attorneys did the right thing. Delay, delay, delay as long as you can. And that's exactly what makes people mad at these insurance companies. Imagine that you legitimately need to have some procedure done. And let's go back to the D's, defend it. So you sue them and they're going to put up a defense. They got a ton of money. They probably got a lot more money than most of us have. And they have, these insurance companies, folks, have their own attorneys, not just their own attorneys, but they have floors of their own attorneys that are on their payroll. Their job is to do nothing but defend, deny, and of course, depose. What is depose? We're talking of depositions. It's more to do with the delay. You bring someone in and you start deposing them, which basically means under oath, you start asking them every question you can possibly think of. And when they don't answer a question, then you got more delay because you go back to court and you fight over it. So I just wanted to make that nexus so everybody can kind of see where I'm going with this. But let's dive into this case a little bit. I have some other points I want to make about this, and I want to show you exactly what type of firearm I believe he was using, and we will talk about it.
It is day 3 of a cross-state manhunt for the gunman who killed the CEO of UnitedHealth, Brian Thompson. We're now learning that the suspect reportedly traveled to New York City on a bus that came from Atlanta just days before the shooting. Detectives also found that he used a fake New Jersey ID to check into a Manhattan hostel where he stayed. We go now to CBS News senior coordinating producer on crime and public safety, Anna Schechter. She joins us to go over all of these new details. First, let's talk about the 2 newest clues, Anna. The suspect's bus ride to New York City and that fake ID he used to check into the hostel. How are police using these two pieces of evidence to help track down their shooter?
Well, the bus trip is very helpful because it's a physical thing that investigators can take a look at. That's part of their casing. We know it originated in Atlanta. It's unclear when the person of interest boarded that bus. So that just gives you a sense of where we are.
It is amazing how they can take a case like this. And don't worry, we're not going to lose any main points on this. This is a pretty recent video. It's amazing to me how they have so many cameras all over the place, similar to what they have in Britain. They can go back and they can effectively track you down almost anywhere and everywhere you went. Now, my opinion of this case in a nutshell, I don't think this guy was necessarily a professional because he made too many mistakes. But clearly this guy practiced this. He was familiar with the gun. He was pretty cool under pressure, so to speak, but not a professional per se. And nowadays it's so hard to get away with something like this. They already probably have his DNA. I mean, the list goes on, but there's a couple points we're going to talk
gun.
about here.
It's hard to find. It's got a very long barrel, a distinctive look.
Okay, now she's talking about the actual firearm, and I'm going to show you a video on this next. But the firearm is very important, and it may help them. It'll help the police to track this guy down.
That you can see in the surveillance video of the attack that we've seen on the show today. And it's that's what led
And what is this guy doing? This guy makes $10 million a year. Why would he not be with his security detail at 6:50 a.m. in the morning? I can pretty well guarantee that the security businesses are going to be extremely busy, probably in perpetuity from now on because of this case. You're making that kind of money, and I kind of get it. Maybe you want to just kind of blend in to the crowd, not really worried about having yourself sticking out like a sore thumb because you have an entourage. You have all these guards and everything around you. So that may be what he was thinking, but that making that kind of money and you have threats against you, I would say that having security would be the way to go.
investigators to go up to Connecticut to gun stores that actually sell this type of gun. It's a B&T Station 6 gun that.
Okay, let's take a look at that exact gun. I actually found that gun, and I want to be careful with what words I use with it because this is YouTube, and I don't want to have it demonetized or anything. But I found a video on this particular gun, and just to give you some kind of, let me pull the picture up so you can see it as I'm talking about it here. Okay, this is what they think the shooter had. And you know how they were talking about on the news that, the gun kept jamming? Well, what it is it's kind of like a rifle, some of these rifles. And I am familiar with firearms, but I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert. So I want to be clear, but I have a general understanding of what's going on. Well, some of the reports that I have listened to, this is the kind of gun, for example, that a vet would use or someone on a farm would use when they have to dispatch an animal, something sick, and they have to euthanize it. This is a quick and effective way to put one of them down. Additionally, it has that silencer. It's also my understanding that that bolt action, when you have to reset that hammer. Now, they were originally saying it kept jamming. It wasn't jamming. It's designed to where you have to basically put another munition in it each and every time. You have to kind of rack it. You're going to see a demo of it here in just 1 second. But that lever, that the way the bolt mechanism works in there, makes it even more quiet than you would have with just the silencer by itself. So this guy's whole purpose was to have something that he could kill the guy with, but yet it was silent, very silent, because he did not want to draw any attention to himself. So let's continue and watch this for a second. Okay, now you'll see how he has to rack it. There he goes. See? When he pulls back on it, when he pulls back and twists like that, which is what you've seen that shooter do in that video, he's putting another round in the chamber. And I don't know if you can tell or not on the video, it's very quiet. It's not very loud, not for a firearm either way. I don't know. I just wanted to show you that. I thought that was interesting. Professional? No. Do you guys think he was professional? I'm curious if you have an opinion on that. Because, let's see, Sapphire, the gun has a silencer. That means it was a professional hit. You know, it may be a professional, Sapphire. The only reason I would say it's not a professional hit would mainly be because of what we just talked about. There was a water bottle that was found at the scene. This guy was sloppy enough to go to the Starbucks, have himself on camera, and then discard the phone, discard the water bottle. I just don't think I've ever seen a professional hit in that in this type of situation. If it was professional, they would like drive up in a car and they would take care of business, get in the car, and take back off. That's exactly what I figured would have happened. Now, do I think this case will be solved? Absolutely. But it's going to take, yeah, they are illegal, Sapphire. I think they're illegal just about everywhere. I don't know of any state that allows them, at least without a permit. But the initial reports I heard was that it was like a homemade type of silencer type of deal. And I don't think that is accurate at all. But again, we'll see, and I will follow the case and we'll talk about it. My prediction on it would be they're going to catch the guy. I just think there's too many clues, and there's so many people that are interested in the case right now. We're talking about it right now, so we're not the only ones interested in it. When you see someone assassinated on a New York street like that, that kind of gets all of our attention, especially the fact the guy's already taken off and we haven't caught him yet. So, but we'll follow and see how it goes. Okay, final thing we'll talk about tonight is the following, because I don't want to run the program too long. So we are all familiar with the Daniel Penny case. Now, this guy is an ex-Marine, I believe. I know he's former military. Imagine what the message is being sent. And this is Alvin Bragg's office, no surprise here, that is prosecuting a former military person who clearly was trying to protect all the people around him. Imagine in America now, you could have clearly a guy that has a long history of violence and arrest. He's schizophrenic. He tells people that I'm going to kill people. I'm going to harm people. I don't care if I go to prison. I mean, these are statements this guy's making at the scene. There's video of other people stating to the police how scared they were. And so they have decided to prosecute this guy, and it is so unfair. We'll just have to see how this particular case works out. I want to play this short video clip and then we can chat about it. The good news is today, and I know that a lot of times on the press, they're like, oh, this is terrible news. It's not terrible news, because the first charge, the main manslaughter charge, has been dismissed by the judge. So that's over with. Double jeopardy now applies to that charge. They're trying, it's basically a dirty trick by the prosecution. What they're trying to do is have the jury compromise on what they call a criminally negligent homicide. If I got it correct, that's my understanding of it. And the good news is it carries a much lower prison sentence. If anything, they don't even have to send them to prison. And I think that's part of the trick by the prosecution. They're sending a message to the jury in a quiet, subliminal way saying, hey, it's not that bad. You guys can compromise on this. Now, they're not supposed to do that. In addition, the prosecutor in this particular case, she's a racist. She's a race baiter. She's hammering this guy and telling the jury with a wink that, hey, Perry obviously is a white guy. The guy that got killed is a black guy. So there has to be a racist aspect to that. She prosecuted another guy that killed some guy. And because this guy that the murderer, I should say, he was a minority. He was a black man. And she advocated and wanted him to have a lesser sentence because of the problems he's had in his life. I mean, you almost can't make this up. Imagine the United States of America, you have effectively a war hero helping people out in a subway system, and they're going after him, at least initially, for a manslaughter type charge that could technically put him in jail 14, 15 plus years. Absolute sanity. Do you think people that are in New York City riding the subway, or just New York in general, do you think they're going to be more available to help out their fellow man than someone else? I mean, this violates the Bible. This violates the Bible. Even in the Bible, the Good Samaritan rewarded for helping someone else. It's just like we've lost our way as a society. That common sense is clearly not that common anymore. One of the dirty tricks they do is they have a video of Perry on the ground with the individual that lost his life. And what's unfortunate about it is they'll have him in that headlock the whole time, and they slow it down. So it seems like they're in that position for a lot longer than the actual event happened. And it's unfair. It shouldn't be allowed. It inflames the jury. It inflames the passions. The fact that they're able to play the race card is all the more that makes this case unreal and sad. It should be the type of case where you put on the facts and forget about who's what color. Can you imagine? Let me put it this way. Do you think that Daniel Perry would be in the position he's in right now if he was a black man? I think we all know the answer to that. So let's take a quick peek at this, and then we're going to
the Daniel
talk about it a
Penny
little bit more.
New York City subway chokehold trial has now been dismissed. The judge dismissed the first count just in the last couple of moments here. We learned that the jury will come back on Monday to deliberate on the lesser charge. Now, to help us understand what this all means for the trial and for Daniel Penny as a person, we're joined by legal analyst Matt Tepanek. Thanks so much for joining us on Live Now from Fox. Always great to have you on here. And this is the way that it looked like it was going when we were on the fourth day of these deliberations, and they were having such a problem on that manslaughter count.
Yes, this was always going to be such a tough case, because the issue is, I've never thought this was going to be a manslaughter case. I think I tweeted about it that it was never really a second-degree manslaughter case. It was always a question whether it's criminal negligent homicide versus an outright acquittal. The thinking being is that Daniel Penny received.
See, and they take this particular video. You can see Perry on the ground, and he's got this other guy in this chokehold. And they will do what I'm doing right now. They stop the video in front of the jury, and it's there all the time. Or I can change my settings on here where I'm playing this back at a very slow speed. And that's what they do in front of the jury. And what's the message being sent? Is that this guy's unreasonable, that he shouldn't have done this, that he killed this guy. And the reality is there's plenty of testimony showing that after he let this guy up, the guy was laying on the ground, but after he stopped choking him, he got up, there was still a heartbeat, and that it was the police, the first responders, that did not want to give him mouth-to-mouth. They were afraid of diseases. There's a lot of contention as to exactly what is the proximate cause of this individual's death.
Training specifically on chokeholds that normal people would not, like everyday citizens would not receive. And his own instructor stated that you're only supposed to hold them for about 5 seconds. Daniel Penny held him in a chokehold for about 6 minutes. So I always felt that there was going to be disagreement on the jury. And
yeah, another thing too is that you have at least two attorneys, if not more, on this particular jury. And anytime you get juries as part of, or I should say attorneys, mixed in with your jury, ladies and gentlemen, you can have a lot of problems, because you're going to have them sometimes try to hijack the case and try to spin it the way they see the particular case. It's not necessarily a good thing to have attorneys in your jury box.
It all depends, because under New York law, an individual, when you have a criminal case, when you have lesser included, you have to first come to a verdict on the first count, the most serious charge, before you can consider a lesser included. A state such as Florida, where I'm from, you're able to find some.
Yeah, what he's saying there, he's exactly right on that, is that it depends on the state law. But in New York, this particular case had two charges. You had the manslaughter charge at the top, and then you had this negligent homicide. Well, before they can get to the negligent homicide, they have to go through the first charge first, the manslaughter, and they have to all agree that he's innocent of that charge, and only then can they go to that lesser charge. Well, in Florida, frankly, in most of the states that I'm aware of, they can basically compromise right off the bat and say, okay, forget the top charge. We're going to go ahead and convict him of something, and we're going to convict him of this lesser charge. But again, it does not work that way in the state of New York. It's just one of the quirks they have with their law. And the fact that this lesser charge is even in there, it's another one of these tricks employed by a district attorney or attorney general's office. They are basically telling the jury, hey, if you have a hard time stomaching the top charge, even though we think that should be what you find him guilty of, if you need to convict him of something, wink, wink, you guys can compromise and go with this lesser charge. Now, again, they're not supposed to do that. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's not what is happening in this particular case. We'll just have to see how it all pans out. Sapphire said the news today said Perry was released. My understanding, there, Mark, is that he has always been released. I don't think he's in jail. He's been showing up every day for court. The top charge should be dismissed at this point. That was my understanding on the manslaughter charge, which did carry substantial prison time, which would be extremely unfortunate. And the only charge he's now looking at is this lower charge of the negligent homicide. And we'll see exactly how that all plays out. So make sure, see if there's any other comments. I want to start winding it down right here. I want to thank everybody for being here today. As always, thanks, Rosemarie. I appreciate P. Hackerman for being here. Hello, my friend Carol. Thank you, American Nana. And, of course, my friend Sapphire. It's always good to have all of y'all here. Oh, and here's Julianne. Thank you so much. Your ads are playing well. I'm not sure what ads you're talking about there, but as long as you're happy, I'm happy too, Julianne. Thank you. If you're talking about the ads from YouTube, I don't control those. That's all put on there by YouTube. I try to cut the ads down, whatever control I have over it, and we'll see exactly how that plays out. As a quick note too, I was going to tell you, it's good news. Sometimes with YouTube, they get a little weird on some of their policies and the way they do things, but I understand they have a platform and they want to keep it clean and they want to make sure they have people making legitimate videos and whatnot there. Well, it turned out that yesterday, it would have been like 11:50 at night, Wednesday, after the live stream there, they sent me like a notice on my dashboard, and it said something about in 1 week, they're going to terminate my participation in their YouTube partner program. That doesn't mean I lose my channel. It just means that the actual program where they reward the channel based on views and whatnot, or super chats or stickers, whatnot, they're going to terminate that. But if they said if I wish to appeal, I could make a video and I could appeal it that way. There's requirements on the video. It has to be under 5 minutes. You have to do certain things. And what they accused me of, and when I say I want to be clear, it's a computer bot that flags the account. They have to audit their accounts. They have advertisers paying a ton of money. And they want to have a good platform. I mean, I think that's legit. I don't say no problem with that. And the bot accused me of basically taking other people's content and just rebroadcasting it on my channel. Of course, that's nonsense. I'm talking to you right now. That's no one's content, right? You understand what I'm saying? It's just, but there are some channels, for example, they'll take Fox News or some other channel, and what they'll do is they'll just record Fox News, for example, and just slap it on a channel. And their goal is to get a bunch of subscribers and ad revenue or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's legit. I get that. So anyway, that's the reason why I didn't broadcast yesterday, because I was busy making that little video. It's kind of hard to show how you go through your thought process, how you make a video, all the different things they wanted me to show them or tell them about. It's a little more complicated than it looks sometimes. But thank God that I did submit a video yesterday, and I thought it would take a week or two, and they responded right away. I got another notice last night. I think it was about the same. Actually, it was about 1:18 in the morning or something like that. So technically, it would have been today. They said your appeal's been granted. You'll still be part of the YouTube partner program, which of course is fantastic. The reality is, it really wouldn't matter either way. I don't make much, if anything, off the ads as far as that goes. But the point is, I don't like to have any restrictions, whether it's on X or YouTube or whatever. So I'm just telling you this as good news. Thank God, praise God. I'm happy to see that. And you're talking about the YouTube ads? Yeah, I appreciate that. Again, I know they run ads, but I generally don't control that. I think the only thing I can control is the frequency, and I try to make it as far apart as I can because I don't want y'all to have to go through a bunch of ads. So thank you so much for that, Julianne. There are also response videos that play lots of other content. Yeah, again, you're allowed technically to play someone else's content. I mean, look at the news in general. When you watch the Main Street, or what I should say, legacy media news, they show clips of one another's content all the time. But the deal is, and I understand YouTube on this. I mean, to me, I think it's human nature that when you get a notice, you're like, I can't believe they're doing that to me. That's not fair. They're after me. They don't like what I'm saying. And I have had that experience, unfortunately. But I think it's just human nature. You think they're picking on you. And that's not the case at all. At least in my case, I don't see that as being the problem. But to finish up what I'm saying, you can use other content, but it has to be for what I use it for: educational value, commentary, video reaction. You have to add something to it. You can't just make it look like you're trying to add something to it, if that makes any sense. But good news is, all's well, and they're happy with my content, and I don't know why they wouldn't be. It's kind of hard to argue this is not original content, but at any rate, I just wanted to share that story with you, family. I appreciate everyone listening to me accordingly, and I always appreciate you all tuning in and supporting my channel. It is not something I take for granted. And Robert, thanks for joining us today, my friend. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I try to look through, make sure I say hello to everybody, especially people that I see regularly. It's always a pleasure. Don't take it for granted. It's always good to sit down and have a chat. If you haven't done so already, always remember to hit that subscribe button so you know when I go live. And if you sometimes have issues with it not working, you make sure you go back to subscribe and hit the one, I think it says all. Just make sure you click the box that says all, and then anything relating to my channel will show up. If you click none or something like personalized, it a lot of times might not work as far as letting you know when I go live or whatnot. So at any rate, I don't want to keep drilling that in the ground. I just want to make sure everybody can contact me on YouTube and all the other platforms. It's simply at JR Dukes. On the X platform, it's at Reach JR Dukes. And if you're ever confused, you can always go directly to my website, which is jrdukes.com. I appreciate it again. Thanks, everybody, joining me. I hope that the Lord Almighty blesses each and every one of you with his anointing until we meet again. It's a good time of year, good time to be alive. We should all have a lot of joy and happiness. Donald Trump's on his way back into office, and our Lord and Savior is still on the throne. Always like to say, keep that mind free. Never give up. Until next time, my friends, I am J.R. Dukes.